Good morning, everyone that's tuned in. I'm going to introduce my wonderful teammates. We are from Tech Integration, and we're going to have a panel discussion. It's going to be an interesting discussion. We're going to be talking about cyberbullying and prevention. But I'm going to let everybody go ahead and introduce themselves. And I guess I'll start with me. My name is Nikki Washington. I work in Tech Integration. And I have a lot of background with cyberbullying. I'm a teacher, dealt with it a lot. I've dealt with parents with the issue. I have my own child, nieces and nephews. So I definitely can have some discussion here about cyberbullying.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Bonnie Chalette. I am a technology facilitator in the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. I worked at a middle school for 12 years and kind of saw bullying kind of emerge as the technology increased. So I'm really interested in hearing what we talk about today.
Hi there, my name's Christopher Hampton. I'm also an instructional technology facilitator with East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. Before that, I was a teacher at Woodlawn High School, and I do have some experience working with at-risk youth in psychiatric inpatient facilities and saw bullying there as well. So I'm glad to be here to talk with you all.
Hi, my name is Angelica Johnson-Smith. I'm also an instructional technology facilitator. Primary content area is elementary. I have been a teacher in the system for about 20 years now, and I am a teacher of early childhood. So I usually get those students in who are just trying to differentiate, expressing their feelings, being a bully, just being mean, or, just trying to get their point across. And I'm at that age where we try to persuade them to use their words and their emotions in the correct way. So I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Brittany Bush. I'm also a technology facilitator. I have been teaching for about 14 years, and most of those years were spent in fifth grade, which is where a lot of that bullying starts. So I have experience with seeing cyberbullying in action, and I'm excited about talking about it today with you.
Good morning. My name is Felicia Gath. I'm also a instructional technology facilitator. I have experience with bullying from being a classroom teacher, first of all, but also serving as an assistant principal. And with being an assistant principal, one of my duties was to kind of coordinate the children who may have those difficulties of, as Angelica said, communicating their feelings, as well as dealing with all types of different other emotional situations that they brought to the school. And unfortunately, bullying, or what the parents seemed to think was bullying, always transferred over to the school. So I'm glad that we're here to be able to clear up some of those misconceptions about bullying, but also to give you some tips that will help you, especially for those of you all who have children who are within that age group.
All right, thank you, you guys. And for my participants that are watching, tuning in live, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We definitely will address those questions for you. We like to engage, and interact with you guys. So definitely drop those questions and we'll respond to them when we get them. So before we actually get started, I want to share Mr. Hampton made this wonderful flyer here, which I love, and it just gives you a breakdown of the cyberbullying problem, because it's an actual problem here, not only in our district, it's all over. So the majority, all of the students have been bullied online at some point, honestly. So you're a kid, they may have never told you, they may have been bullied online or in person. So they have been cyberbullied, and I'm not surprised at this fact, but girls are more likely to experience and participate in the cyberbullying. Are you guys shocked about that? I'm not, but you may be. So that's an interesting fact. Also, 1 in 10 students are bullied on a consistent basis. Their parents and they not many communicate with their parents, and we're going to talk about this today. So because we want the students to be able to communicate with somebody, because we don't want them to continue to go through being bullied, and it's an embarrassing moment. So we're definitely going to address that today. And there is a correlation with cyberbullying and teen suicide. So we definitely want to make sure we address these things with our kids, because we don't want them to commit suicide. So the rumors by text, the social media posts, the nude pictures, the low report rate, those all have an effect on our kids and teen suicide, and it's real. We've lost a couple of kids to suicide here in our district, so we definitely want to talk about that today. And all of the kids have access to media, so they have it right in their hands, in the palm of their hands, those cell phones, all of these devices. So it makes it real easy to be a victim of cyberbullying. So those are some of the things that we are going to discuss today, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So I'm going to pose my first question to the panel, because you may not be aware, what is cyberbullying? So somebody from the panel, if you don't mind, please educate us on what is cyberbullying, so that our parents and our audience could know.
Okay, so cyberbullying is just what the word implies. Cyber is through the internet or internet medium, and bullying is just what it's always been, harassing, teasing of another individual that is not warranted or not wanted. Cyberbullying is not new, but it's something that is used on a daily basis with students. I know back when I was in school, there was no such thing as cyberbullying because we didn't have access to devices to bully. Everything was either face to face, or you put it on a piece of paper and you could tear it up, throw it away. They may have written on a wall or something and it could be painted over. Cyberbullying is different because we know that the World Wide Web and the cloud is forever. So cyberbullying is using electronic devices, social media apps. Snapchat is one of the primary ones that the students like to use. Instagram, TikTok, to bully another individual. That can be done by spreading pictures, making memes, videos, different things that the students come up with, and they are becoming geniuses with bullying through using those electronic devices. The difficult thing about cyberbullying is that it just can't be deleted. It goes on and it carries with that student forever. It can always be, people can bring it back up, which is why it's kind of like rarely reported, because if you report it, then you have to resurface it. And once it's resurfaced, and we know on the web, once you search one thing, it's just like a cycle and it spirals.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. All right, anybody has anything? I think she covered it all. All right. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about, the first thing we're going to talk about, you guys, is the different types of cyberbullying you could expect your child to run in at some point in life. So I'll start it off and say, people impersonate themselves on social media. So that is a type of cyberbullying that they may encounter. Their friends or the bully is going to impersonate themselves as someone else to your child or to the child. So impersonation, that is very common. And sadly, even adults do this. So it's not just our kids. It carries on until adulthood, and they do the same thing. They impersonate others on social media so that they can bully them because they don't want to identify it as themselves. So your kid may experience that. And with the impersonation, people want to impersonate themselves, or somebody may even impersonate my it's so easy for them to take my identification and make their own social media account and portray themselves as there's me and do all those different things. So that is one type of cyberbullying that you or your student may even encounter. Anybody else have any different types of cyberbullying that you may see?
I'll go. And to piggyback off of what Nikki said, I know all of us that have social media platforms, we're always trying to double check with our friends on Facebook to make sure that when they send a new friend request, that it's actually them. And so, like she said, it's not just children that do it, but it's adults that'll do it as well for whatever benefits that they will receive from that. But another type of cyberbullying is just harassment. Is any type of unwanted suggestions or people trying to constantly get in on your Facebook page, Instagram, like you said, I think they mentioned Twitter and TikTok. Those unwanted advances or comments that are being made about an individual on the internet, but also just the factor of getting other children involved in it, because we know that a lot of things that our children involve in it is peer pressure. And so that peer pressure to be able to fit in with a certain group, being able to be with the cool kids, so to say. One of the things that we know that usually children who don't necessarily fit in with what the community or the society may say is what is cool at that time are usually targets. So if you know that your child is in feels awkward, or that if your child is a person that may have hard times with socializing with other children or socializing in large groups, those may be some warning signs to just kind of look out for, and being very vigilant when it comes to their social media pages and the way that, and their texts, all those things. But I think that one thing that we need to make sure that we let our children know, as well as to keep in mind, that usually someone who is bullying someone, especially if they're if they're impersonating someone, or if they're harassing someone through cyberbullying, that there's also an insecurity that is there for that person too. And so we need to make sure not only that we're addressing the issues and concerns of the child that's being bullied, but we also need to look at the person that's doing the bullying, because there's some underlying issues, emotional, mental things that are going on with them that makes them feel like they need to bully someone else or make someone else feel inadequate because of whatever insecurities that they have as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gaff. We have a question, you guys. How should schools handle inappropriate social media texts when it's happening outside of school?
Okay, I'll go. With the social media text outside of school, the schools don't have, and I may be wrong when I say this, the way that I say it, the schools don't have jurisdiction over what happens outside of the school hours and at home with the students. However, if it can be shown that the text messages have any type of implications on the child that's being bullied, schoolwork, mental capacity to handle things at school, any types of things like that, then it can be brought back to the school. So then the school can handle it if it violates anything in the handbook as it pertains to the child. So if, for example, if a child is receiving text messages on the weekend and they start a group chat about this child, and this child goes to school and it's like, or go to the parent and say, Mom, this group of kids from my school started this text message, after school at the mall or whatever. If the information in the text messages has any type of implication on that school age child at the school, and it violates inside of that handbook, the handbook and those rules can be used to apply any type of punishment towards the children that are sending the text message outside of the school grounds. I hope that
That's a great question, Ms. Rings, because like I said, with my experience of being an assistant principal, all the neighborhood mess comes to the school. So anything that happens on the bus, at the bus stop, in the apartment complex, down the street, all of that is always brought back to the school, and parents want the school to handle it versus them handling it amongst themselves or involving, the law into the situation. So that I'm glad that Ms. Johnson Smith was able to support you with that, because that is a huge problem when it comes to children bringing things that are happening at home back to the school, and parents expecting the school to still handle those situations.
All right, great responses. Does anybody else on the panel have any thing to add on about the different types of cyberbullying that our students may encounter?
Another thing that comes up with cyberbullying is those group texts. They have group texts that they will talk about somebody or send out a video or a picture of somebody, and it just continues on and on and on. So you might want to monitor your child's group, their text, monitor what they're sending out, monitor what they're receiving back on their phones, because those group chats, that causes a lot of problems.
I had one more thing I wanted to add to that. So with the cell phones, they also have the capability of airdropping photos. So it's not just your group chats or your text messages that can be an issue. If one person has, say, an inappropriate photo or an embarrassing photo, they can airdrop that photo instantaneously to anybody else in a radius area that's close who has their airdrop function turned on to receive. So unfortunately, someone who's doing cyberbullying as far as photo sharing is concerned can hit a huge range of people, a target audience, very quickly. So that's another thing to be aware of.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to add about the factor of them also doing they may not announce the person or the child's name, but everyone that is involved know who they're talking about, and that individual sometimes, most times, know that they are being targeted. They just don't have the proof because their name is not being used, and so it also sometimes can get brushed off as like a rumor or one person's word versus another person's word. So that's just something to kind of be mindful of. And also just all the tricks that our children know on how to use the internet and different websites and things. They can easily create a picture of someone and Photoshop it and put someone's face on it, or to, make it look or seem like it's someone that it's actually not even a true picture of them. So we just have to know that our children are little geniuses when it comes to technology, way more advanced than some of us are with all the capabilities. So just kind of be mindful of those types of things as well.
All right, and I want to say the last part. Also, with the cyberbullying and different types of cyberbullying comes harassment. Even in elementary school, our kids, they get harassed online. It's abusive. It affects their social, emotional well-being. It's the threatening messages. So we really have to educate as educators. I know we all in this room, we did our part in educating, and even Ms. Rings, you did a great job with that, with educating the students and the parents about the seriousness of this cyberbullying, the harassment. And you don't know what effect it has on that child. It leads, like we said earlier, it leads to the student wanting to cause self-harm on themselves. They feel isolated. It just causes a lot of problems for the kids. And I used to take this as teachable moments to teach those students that are harassing them, the other students, about this, and educate their parents on what type of repercussions will be if your child keeps continuing to harass these students, because this is something not only does the school take place serious, there are laws in place. We can report them to the State Department and all of that. So harassment, I think, is one of the big parts of cyberbullying, because people get behind, and even adults, like I said, it carries on into adulthood. They get behind the keyboard, they get that extra courage that they normally wouldn't have to tell someone in their face, and you get behind the keyboard and you just say and do things that you normally wouldn't do in someone's face. I don't know what thrill they get out of it. So we definitely, as a district, hopefully we can do better with making sure we educate our kids. We just gonna have to take some of that time, because this is important. Now that our kids are online, they have these devices all the time. They have their own device, the school device. We need to add this as part of it needs to be a mandate, a part of our curriculum, to educate the students on cyberbullying, because it's not going to go anywhere, and it's our job to educate them on it. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Thank you guys for those responses. And we're going to talk about the effects of cyberbullying. So I'll go ahead and start off. One effect I see with kids that are being consistently cyberbullying is depression. They are in a state of depression, which of course leads to suicidal thoughts. And then you have to, of course, as a teacher, you have to look for the signs. And I used to make sure I had an open relationship with my students. If you didn't want to tell me out loud, that's fine. I had a little mailbox where they could come and they could drop their mail and tell me things that they didn't want to say out loud because they didn't want to be a snitch or rat, whatever the kids call them. And they can do that there. And one thing I took pride in, and my students knew they were safe when they were with me. You're going to be safe and protected. You're going to feel safe. You're not going to feel a threat or anything. So any reports that came to me, I made sure I went down the line and the students got the proper protection. The bully was addressed and consequences were given so that the students don't feel unsafe at school. Because I feel like your parents left me in your own and left you with me, I'm going to make sure you're safe during my time. I can't do it at home, but while you're here at school, it was my job to protect you. So I think that's one of the effects of cyberbullying is depression.
I
Yeah,
think also I'm sorry, Bonnie, creating that safe environment that you just spoke about for this child to feel comfortable enough to approach you and to share something like that, because a lot of kids don't feel like they have anyone to turn to in order to share what's going on with them.
Also students can, obviously like Nikki said, the depression, and then that was a great comment, isolation and withdrawal. But also like you might see their school performance decrease. They might not be doing, the same great work they were doing, and there might be an increase in absences because there is this anxiety of going to school and in attempts to avoid it. That's just something to watch for as well.
I wanted to make a comment on Ms. Kalawa's comment of isolation and withdrawal. I think that's a really big one because not only is that a symptom of depression, but you also see children start to show a loss of interest in things that they were once, one of those things that maybe motivated them, say like if they're into sports or other extracurricular activities like robotics, dance, whatever, you name it, you might see them withdraw completely from those things that kind of fueled their passions. So that's something to look for as well.
You can also watch their friends, because a lot of time it's the friends or the group of friends that they have been having for their entire elementary, middle school. They'll kind of withdraw from them because a lot of time the friends are the ones that's doing their bullying. So they're not really friends, but they'll have their little chats or their little things about them, and you can see that they start withdrawing from those friends. So that's one of the warning signs, when they completely isolate themselves from people that they've been around for years.
All right. So those were great points. I agree with all of it. The academics, you're going to see a slip in that. Even their sleeping patterns and how they eat. If you notice your kid is sleeping all day, that's a sign when they normally didn't. They just want to stay in a bubble all day. That's really a sign to me that my kid, when they're normally active, they're happy-go-lucky, and there's nothing in the world I can do to make them happy because they have just the weight of the world on their shoulders. That's another sign. So you guys gave some great points here. And remember, we're all parents here, students, we're teachers, we have nieces and nephews. So we've definitely experienced these things. And thank you guys for participating in the chat here. We're going to go on to our next question. Our next topic, I should say. So we're going to talk about cyberbullying and the self-harm. What is going to be the effects of the cyberbullying and the self-harm if we leave it unattended to? We don't address it. So this is to my panel. If we just, as a parent, as a teacher, we don't address the issue, we just brush it under the rug, what will be the effects of it?
Okay, so with the self-harm, it could be many forms of self-harm. We have eating. Students who are bullied, they go through the phases of depression, and one is a loss of appetite, and they get into the habits of not eating anymore. I had an incident where a student did not want to go to lunch. So you couldn't go to lunch because you were sitting with, like Brittany said, you're sitting with a group of students who have been your friends for a while, and now they're not your friends anymore. So then you don't have anybody to sit with. So then you're isolating in the cafeteria. So why even go to the cafeteria? So then they develop these habits of not eating and withdrawing from eating. So that form of self-harm becomes a type of eating disorder. Another is us internal self-harm. They begin to internalize the thoughts that other people have of them based off of what the bully said. So they start to believe that they aren't worth what they don't have the self-worth that they've had initially. They believe that if the bully said that this person is not, oh, you're stupid, you're dumb, they start to internalize that and they actually feel it. And then we have the outward, the cutting. I know that we have the cutting, we have the hair pulling, we have the twisting, and the tics that start to develop, and that's all due to the anxiety that they keep in, and it displays itself as a harming behavior. Um, Another one that I could possibly think of is I had another student who decided to become selectively mute, meaning that they decided not to talk. And through the mutism, they weren't able to display or get their thoughts across because they chose not to talk. And this child didn't talk for almost the duration of a school year because someone made fun of them. They didn't like their voice. They compared their voice to something else that was on a cartoon. The cartoon would pop up. They would say this was this child. So they decided not to talk. And again, they start to internalize things. So those are the forms of self-harm that I can, think of that students display due to cyberbullying.
I think also overeating can also be a sign because, I mean, I know we as adults, when we get stressed out, sometimes our food is our comfort zone. And so just overeating and just things that they may not necessarily would do normally, now they have a pattern of these bad habits and things, as well as also starting to use drugs. To numb the pain and to, take them out of their head, because a lot of the time that is a serious problem that they try to avoid, or they try to put themselves in a bubble so that they don't have to really deal with it. Ms. McCoy, you're right. Low performance in school is also another one, especially if the children are making fun of their intelligence also. Okay, Ms. Reams has a question. How can we get teachers, staff to be more proactive with cyberbullying? As a school counselor, I see all aspects. However, some people feel like it's kids being kids, or or it's just the phase. I would say that is something that we have to be very conscious of. And I think the factor, like you said, of being proactive and being monitoring your students. I think that's one of the biggest things, that if we were proactive with monitoring our students, monitoring what they're putting on their Chromebooks or on their computers, the type of interactions that they're having with other classmates and stuff, I'm sure a lot of things would be picked up on and noticed and can be addressed. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own day-to-day tasks and duties and personal life things as well, that sometimes those things slip through the cracks, and our children don't have the same type of survival skills that we as adults have. And so they are struggling out there trying to figure out how to maintain, or how to even just function in an environment where they're being harassed constantly.
And I don't think that this is just a phase, because we all know there are adults that cyberbully. So if you're doing it now and no one addresses it now, it's going to carry on into the child's adulthood. They're going to think that's the appropriate, proper behavior. So I definitely think this should be added into our curriculum. It should be a mandate. You can't say you don't have time, because actually you're wasting time, instructional time. I know sometimes I had to waste my instructional time to address the cyberbullying, the things that happened online, because it came to my classroom. So if that's a distraction, I can't teach, I have to address it. So you're wasting your classroom time to address the issue anyway. So as teachers, educators, counselors, it needs to be built into our curriculum for our students, because sadly, we're going to have to teach them the proper behavior. We can't expect it to be taught at home. If it is, great. I know I teach my kids, but some kids, their parents work at night, they're working a lot. They You know, it's just their parents just doing the best that they can. They don't have time to educate their child on it. So as an educator, it's our responsibility in the school to make sure that we're more proactive on it by teaching and educating our kids. So if we teach this to them and we educate them, they'll see that it's important. And when it does come up, if we address the issue with the students, they'll take it serious. And the parents, and of course, when that issue comes up, the parent needs to come to the school or something or whatever. And I also think the students should go through some type of counseling with eye care or even at their school, especially if there are a constant cyberbullier. They are always bullying kids. So that's just my suggestion as far as being proactive with it, because we can't just say, hey, you're cyberbullying, and just, no, we need to make them know that it's very serious and that you cannot continue to do that. And we don't want them to become adults that cyberbully, because we know that there are adults that does the cyberbullying.
I think another thing, oh, go ahead, Bonnie.
I also think that we need to like train our staff on notice and hand, like consistently, bring that up in our meeting. We train on all kinds of different things, but this needs to be one of those things we consistently bring up. I'm going to drop, they have some lessons. There's a lot of stuff out there that teachers can use in their class, but you could also use those lessons with teachers and be like, hey, let's go over this and how can we fix it? So I think like creating a school culture, including teachers of how can we prevent it? Why is this important? Can support you as a counselor and get teachers to be more proactive. All right, sorry, Angelica.
That's okay. I was about to say exactly what you said. Training teachers are providing the training for teachers so that they can identify bullying. And we know that students do name call from time to time, and they do childlike behaviors, but there is a big difference between those childlike behaviors and actual bullying. So I think that if the teachers got that training, just like we get training for every other curriculum and subject, that we should get the training for the needs of the students, for the child that's being bullied and the child that is the bully, especially the child that's the bully. We have to end the cycle somewhere.
And even include the parents on ways to identify it and ways to support their child if their child is experiencing that at school or even in any social environment or venue.
I just also wanted to add to this that if we don't recognize these things and address these things both as educators and as parents, then both the bully and the one being bullied continues in this sort of spiral of self-sabotage where the bully continues to do the negative behaviors to gain the attention. And then you might also have the one being bullied self-sabotage as well. I saw someone mention low performance in school. Maybe if they're not getting any sort of attention or no one's addressing these issues at home, this might be a way that they see to get attention. And so you see these negative behaviors just continuously progressing for both bully and bullied.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, y'all. This is getting juicy. It's a great conversation, but it's a conversation that needed to be had. Hopefully we can do better as adults with making sure our kids are safe and they learn that cyberbullying is not okay. So let's talk about what can the students do if being cyberbullied. One thing I was always taught, which I agree with, is ignore the bully. I'm not going to give you attention because they may want my attention. They seek attention clearly. So one thing you can do is ignore the bully to a certain extent, of course. And if you ignore them, I find most times, not all times, they will stop because they're not getting the attention that they want. Nobody is laughing with them when they're doing the things. If the crowd ignores them, then most likely they will stop. So you guys, what are some what can the students do if they're being cyberbullied? Y'all chime in.
I think one of the best things, and this might sound a little unorthodox because it doesn't exactly address it directly, but I think one of the best things that students can do if they're being bullied is just develop a really positive and strong support network. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to join a club or join a sport or some sort of extracurricular activity where they create a friend base. It seems that people who get bullied a lot, and this is not the hard and fast rule, but a lot of them seem to be already excluded, or there's some reason that they're being bullied in the first place because they're not a part of a group or something like that. So I feel like being a part of a group can really increase the chances for students to be able to respond to cyberbullies because they have that strong support network.
Okay, I would say, just like Ms. McCoy said, the first thing would be to report it, capture any screenshots, get your receipts, capture any screenshots, and then, like Ms. Carmouche says, tell an adult. And then once you do that, I would would direct the child to go through the process of blocking those people on social media. If they can't have access to you, then they cannot, continue to spread those things. So once they go through the formula of getting those receipts, those screenshots, go through a timeline of events, how long it has been occurring, and then, block those individuals from the social media site. And another thing as a parent, because I mean, it's human nature for us, if someone does something to you that you follow back, you do something back. So I would, kind of find out, once you heard about this, Johnny, did you respond back? What was your response? What was your action? And then I would, direct them to report it to the school staff, because you already have your information, you have your screenshots, you have a record of events and a timeline, you've blocked the individual, and then, go from there based on the school policy reports. And then, like Ms. Thomas says, you do have some students that are scared to report it. And that's when you have to lean on, or not really lean on, those students that bully always have a group of people that are behind them, that are the hype people who have no intentions on being the bully. And so that's when we have to go back to our training and train those, use our training in bullying to help to pull those other kids that are, behind hyping up the bully, or being their support system, to the other side, so that they can be the reporters of something that can, that's going on, so that they can be the voice.
I think also, oh, go ahead.
I totally agree with that, Ms. Thomas. They are afraid, so that's why I think each school should have some type of mailbox where the kids can just pass by and drop that information, because like you said, they don't feel safe, or they're scared to report it. We gotta have, and now we all have devices, so no one ever has to know. They can send a private message to the guidance counselor in Google Classroom. Maybe the guidance counselor has a Google Classroom, just to talk with the students. They can send a private message. No one will never know unless they tell them. So since we're all on devices, we have access to this technology. We can set up some processes using technology, so that the students can report that issue to someone. And it's somebody on campus. Somebody on campus has to be that go-to safe person for the students, and have that relationship with the students, so that they can report it. And like I said, I used to, for as far as with me and my students, they knew you could come tell me. If you don't want to tell me, write it down, because I have your back, and you're not going to be bullied on my watch. Because I always look at it as, I don't want my child bullied. I want somebody to protect him while he's at school, my nieces and nephews. So these kids, I don't want anything to happen to them that I wouldn't want to happen to my own. So I took pride in doing that. So it's going to take all of us to come together to make sure we protect our kids and have them a safe haven to come tell someone.
And that's pretty much what I was going to say, is the factor of communicating with, having open communication with your students and with your child, and being able to create that relationship that they feel comfortable talking and having uncomfortable conversations with adults. But also, we have to build our children up, because there's so many things that are out there in social media, on television, everywhere, that is giving them a false concept of what children should look like, or how they should be, what they should be able to do, all of those different things. And so I think that we need to build our children up, but also be able to celebrate their uniqueness, and celebrate, those things that make them different, or make them stand out from other students, versus making it a negative thing. It's a positive thing. Usually those are the children that become those rock star people, 10, 15 years down the line, just because of the unique way that they think or the unique way that they do things.
I have a 9-year-old. We're not ready for social media yet, but I have showed her whenever the day comes, like how to report tweets or whatever and flag them by the platform. So that's also something students can learn how to do. Like if it is something, cyberbullying, you can report that to that platform and they can get that person can be flagged that way. So it's just a little good tool to have in their toolbox.
I have one more thing I wanted to add. I think it's really important to understand that that people who are cyberbullying, they're not some stereotypical social outcast that you see in the movies or in television shows. I mean, back to that infographic at the beginning of the session, 50% of all students have been a cyberbully. So this is not a hard and fast rule on who is a cyberbully. This could be anybody. And so I think as an educator, it's really important that if you happen to have a beat on someone who is cyberbullying and you don't have that type of relationship built with that student, to approach them in a way that might be beneficial, to talk to a teacher or a coach who does, because I'm sure that they're probably out there and it's probably someone that they look up to, and they're gonna listen to that person because it's someone that they respect. So I think knowing who these students are involved with is going to be very beneficial to curb that behavior and to address it properly.
All right, those are some great points. Now let's move on to the next topic, because I think those next few are very important. Let's talk about cyber prevention as a teacher. What are some things that we can do as a teacher to prevent cyberbullying? I know for me, it's letting my students know it's okay to tell someone. Don't feel that you're a snitch or or anything like that. You have the safety in me, or if you don't, you have a guidance counselor. We'll have set up some type of process where the students feel comfortable to tell you, and make sure as a teacher that you have your eyes and ears open. That's how I found out a lot of the times, just by walking by, listening to a conversation. Oh, what's going on? And then you really get it out of the kids. So as a teacher, I made sure I walk from my room. I'm listening to these conversations, because you think they're supposed to be having group conversations, and then they're talking about what's really going on social media. So make sure you have your eyes and ears open as a teacher of what's going on in your classroom, because they're going to end up telling on themselves.
Another thing I would say, and y'all know that I come from the perspective of little people, is to create a climate and culture in your classroom that is of that of a family. And they have a tendency, once you create that, because you start off with the little people. If a girl and a boy are friends, then automatically that's her boyfriend or that's her girlfriend. So when we used to have in our classroom, the girls and boys play together, it was automatically assumed that we are like brothers and sisters, we're like cousins, and it was okay for us to have a playmate that wasn't the most ideal. So every year I would have a set of students of two different genders, and they would become best friends. And to this day, they're in 5th grade now and they're still best friends. But we set up the climate in the classroom that we were all a family. And outside of these doors, we look out for each other. I remember being in the classroom and the kids were at art, and one of the children, I don't know if they cut themselves or something. They left the art teacher and they came back to home, which was the classroom, to let me know that, something happened to the child. It was like 6 of them that brought them back, but still, they were still looking out for each other. So I would start off with creating that culture in the classroom that we are a family, and so that they can communicate with each other, and they use, kinder words with each other, or, they know how to apologize. That's a big thing, teaching children how to say that they're sorry and understanding that they do have faults and identifying when they're wrong. So I think if you establish it, if we start off, with them younger, and we carry it through, that it makes a big difference too.
I was going to say the same thing about building a community within the classroom, and that safe haven, not just with the teacher, but with your classmates. And like you said, if you build that climate and that culture in your classroom, then those students will feel like it is their responsibility to protect each other and to stand up for each other. It's kind of like what you do with siblings. You don't let anybody do anything to hurt your baby brother, or when y'all are together, or even if y'all are not together, you always stand up for your brother. You always do this. And these are things that I teach my boys. And my boys and my nephews, like I say, y'all are each other's back. Anything happens, you all are the ones who are responsible for taking up for protecting anybody in the group. It could be the oldest one, just doing that. But I think also with building that community, it, like you said, Angelica, it's great to start it off with the littles, but we got to continue it. We have to continue and make it more relevant and more age appropriate as the kids are getting older, to the type of conversations and the type of exposure that they have to what's going on in outside in the world and on the internet and stuff like that. So being able to build that culture and that climate is not something that is easy to create, but also it's the factor that you build that community with their parents as well, because then the parents will feel like, I know Miss Washington has my child's back. I know Miss Washington is looking out for the best interest of my child. And so they support you and they back you. And then they're almost in the classroom, because we all are a community. Like Angelica said, that's my play cousin, that's my my brother, you know, that's my play aunt or whatever like that. And so when the kids start thinking, because they know those terms, they know what that means, they know that they have people in their lives that are not necessarily blood related, but they are like their family. And so we treat our classmates just like that as well, and just keep those lines of communication open with the children as well as with the parents. And I think that that could kind of curb some of that bullying too, with students.
All right, I'm gonna make one more point, and then we're gonna move to the next one before we run out of time. Also, as teachers, we have to, like I say, I'm gonna keep saying this. We have to teach students how to act and behave online. So it's our responsibility now, because we're putting all these devices. We have the kids online all day. It's our responsibility to teach them, not just as a teachable moment, but every day. Teach the students how to act and behave online. That's a part of being a teacher now. So we're going to move on to the next part, cyberbullying prevention as a parent. What are some things that parents could do to prevent cyberbullying with their child? I know we've said this already. Monitor your child's phone. Monitor their online activities. See what's going on. Know what's going on. Have access. Know those passwords. See what's going on, because like we said, your child may not tell you. You're gonna have to go looking. So my son is in the 2nd grade. I go to his history. I just need to see. I don't care. I'm going on this Chromebook. I see his history, make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. On his tablet, I have it pretty secured because I have the Alexa Free Time app on there. So I have it secured, but I do check behind my child, because they can run into so many things on the internet. It's unreal. So definitely monitor what your child is doing online, their activities. Don't feel like you're stalking them. You're doing what's best for your child. You're protecting them because they're still a child, and it's your job as a parent.
One thing I would say is the apps, the social media apps, learn how they work. If you allow your children to have TikTok and Snapchat and whatever else they have out there, you need to have it on your phone too. You need to understand how it works. I know with Snapchat, they can record things and then it disappears. I didn't know that, but I had to find that out by downloading the app myself, and you can keep track of that. Another thing is if your child is being bullied online, to find out, exactly like I said, get those receipts and see what's actually going on. What was the conversation that happened before and what happened? But don't get into the mindset, well, what did you do? Don't blame the child for what's going on, and don't take away the device thinking it's going to solve anything. You get into this mess and all of this is happening and your friends are talking this way, I'm taking your phone. But that didn't stop it on the other end. It's continuously going. I think you need to get to the root to it. And I guess another thing would be like Nikki said, monitoring your child's social media. There are all kind of apps that you can use to see, exactly what's going on. I know I have an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. I have passwords because I need to see what's going on. I need to see what's happening, especially with the 14-year-old, y'all. I need to see what's actually happening on this phone. I need to see these text messages and the language that's being spoken. So, make sure you're monitoring. And like somebody else said, I'm old school. We can be friends, but we're not going to be friends. I need to have that open dialogue with you.
Ms. Johnson,
Oh, go ahead.
somebody has a question. What's the name of the app that you mentioned to monitor your child?
Okay, hold on. Let me get it, and I'll respond back. But you go ahead.
She was talking about screen time.
That's it, screen time.
I had something I wanted to add. I'm also, Miss Reams, you're not the only one. I'm also old school. I'm a parent first, and I'll be a friend later. But I wanted to share something that a former coworker suggested, because I have a 13-year-old who just got a phone, and it makes me incredibly nervous. And of course, this doesn't solve all the problems, but it's a very good deterrent for the time being. So I told her if she wanted to go onto any sort of social media, like Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, that she had to add me as a friend, and she decided against that stuff for now. So I think that's probably a good thing to do, is to make. And my coworker, she has a senior in high school, so she said, yeah, anytime you want to do any sort of social media, I have to be one of your friends so I can see what's going on. And like I said, that doesn't solve the entire problem, but it's a big part of it.
And I also just want to say, with most of these social media platforms, most of these kids are not even old enough, so they're lying about their age to get on these platforms. They're not mentally mature and ready for these platforms anyway. So as a parent, just consider that and keep that in mind. No elementary child should be on any of these social media platforms because they are not 13 years old. And I believe the requirement is 13 to be on these social media apps. So we're opening the doors to give them access to adults, grown information way before their time. Just keep that in mind.
And one more thing to keep in mind is that these kids, like we've said over and over, they're really smart and they know how to get around things. So a lot of them have more than one account. So make sure that you check that. So they have something that they call spam accounts. So they'll have their account and they'll share it with your parents and your teachers, but they also have that account that they're doing all these other things on. So make sure that you monitor that as well.
And the last thing, parents, I'm just gonna say, teachers, we're gonna do our part, but we need the parents also teach your students how to act and behave online with their devices. Social media is very important that it comes from the parent as well, and not just the teacher. I think they'll listen more to the parent because they're with you more than us. So definitely educate your child on the importance of cyberbullying and look on their phone and see if they are the bully, and definitely discipline them, because you'll go on there and see some of the messages that they're sending. So definitely check that out. So we're going to go ahead and move on to what can students do for cyberbullying prevention. What are some things that students can do? This is one thing I used to post in my room. Think before you post. Is it nice? Is it harmful? Is it something that you would want your parents to see? Think, reflect before you actually hit send on there. Is this something that you would want to receive? So reflect on it as a student. I want you to really reflect and think, is this really a nice post? Should I really be posting this before you actually hit send on that post? Because remember, when you hit send, you can delete it, but it's still out there. We can go back and find it. You're deleting off your screen. It can still be found. It's not deleted. It'll be there forever. So just keep that in mind, students.
Yeah, I agree totally with what Nikki said. And, telling them, like what Angelica pointed out, like telling them to stand up for each other, that you are all on the same team, and to support your classmates, and because they're having a hard time too. Like I said, I worked with middle school, so everybody's having a hard time in middle school, that we're all on the same team and stuff, and creating that culture where people stand up for each other.
All right. Anybody else have anything about the students? If not, I'll go. Treat everyone with respect, students. That's online, offline. Treat everyone with respect. Do not put inappropriate things on the web, pictures of anyone else, because first of all, that's against the law. Nude pictures, even if you just share something. I think a lot of our students, you share something, You didn't post it and you think you're okay, but you hit the share button. That's just like you posted it yourself. So be mindful of those things and learn the rules of social media. If I share an inappropriate post, that's just like me posting it myself. Stay away from the negative people online. Oh, social media could be a great thing. It's a great learning tool if people use it appropriately. You can learn a lot of things from people online. But then you also have to remember there's a lot of bad people online, a lot of negative people. So students, just keep that in mind when you're on social media, and take a break from social media. If you have nothing but negativity on social media, you're being bullied, delete that app. You will be okay. You will be okay. I promise you, you'll live. Delete that app if it's causing you stress. You're stressed out about what's going on with you and your friends. Delete the app from your phone. You may need to take a social media break. All right, you guys, we have about 5 more minutes. Does anybody on the panel have any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I just wanted to say, when we're talking to the students, be aware of the people that you claim to be friends with, and look at their behavior patterns and look at how they perform in school. If they're always getting in trouble in school and all of those, and there's some negativeness around them, then that may not be the people that you want to socialize with, because you need to make sure that people associate you with the company that you keep. And like Ms. Washington said, just because you're not the creator of it, if you contribute to it, if you are laughing with them, if you are passing it along, you're sharing it, even if you don't pass it through social media, but you show someone on your phone what someone else has posted, you're just as guilty, and you're still a part of the problem. And so you need to consider that with that, with the friends and the people that you hang out with. If they're ugly to other people and they do things like that, don't think that they won't one day do it to you as well.
And also, Ms. Gaff, I want to say, also, students, parents, remember this. There's a thing called a digital footprint. That digital footprint will come back and ruin your life, because if you're trying to get into college or get a job or an internship, if they go back and look at your social media posts, that could stop you from getting an internship, that job you wanted. And you don't want that to, what you did in the past, to affect your future. So keep that in mind. Your employers now will look at your social media to see what type of person you are, because your social media does tell what type of person you are. Unfortunately, it's like a digital resume. They're going to go back and look at that footprint. So make sure your footprint shows positivity. You're a great person, because you don't want that to stop anything that's coming out, getting that job you want. You definitely prevent that from happening. So does anybody else have any closing remarks on the panel?
I just think that it's great that we're able to have this conversation, and to kind of open the door for having the conversation in other platforms. I think this would be something great for an open house meeting with parents, to share this type of information and to make parents aware of it. I know I know at schools you all put out things in your newsletters or your weekly emails and things like that. Always just kind of keeping parents abreast of what's going on and what to be aware of, and to talk about it with your students. And like Angelica said, making sure that you are creating a culture and a climate and a community at your school and within the classrooms to try to give children a safe haven, so that they don't feel like they have to endure this on their own, and it end up leading to self-harm, or even the ultimate thing of them committing suicide or attempting to commit suicide. So we have to do what we need to do to educate people, as well as being able to be proactive in these situations. So.
All right, in closing remarks, you guys, thank you for tuning in, being active participants. This was a great conversation. That hour went by so fast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully we can continue, as Ms. Gaff said, to have this conversation, because it's a tough conversation, but it needs to be had. And teachers and counselors, Remember, we have access to the digital citizenship, the cyberbullying lessons for free, already done in Nearpod. So definitely go and download those. If you want to share it to your students as additional work and their parents, definitely go into Nearpod. We pay for it, so utilize it. You don't have to go and make anything up. They're great lessons. Go and utilize those Nearpod lessons on the bullying, the cyberbullying. It addresses all of those issues that you're having coming up in your class. As teachers, of course, I know you're busy. You don't have time to make all those lessons. They already paid for you. So definitely go and access those lessons. You guys, you were great. Thank you for participating, and we'll see you guys soon. Signing out, Ed Tech. See you guys later. Have a great morning.